Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from Julie. No context, just Sufjan Stevens' 4th of July from the album Carrie Lowell. So, let's dive into this. Sufjan is an interesting artist. We've checked out two of his tracks so far. And he always brings a unique element to his work. I can never really expect exactly a specific sound. So let's dive into this and see what he's bringing to the table today. All right, 4-bar phrase. Not a lot of tension, but a starting chord into a leading chord into a resolution. The resolution's held out for 2 bars.
Like a fever ahead, it was night when you died, my firefly. What could I have said to raise you from the dead? Or could I be the sky?
It's interesting, these are all red on the downbeat. He's got a bounciness to it.
What did you learn from the Tillamook burn or the 4th of July?
Bum ba bum ba bum bum. There's a bounciness to it that is very opposite of what our piano is playing, which is just a very rigid downbeat attack.
Sitting at the bed with a halo at your head, was it all a disguise like junior high? Where everything was fiction, future and prediction. Now, where am I, my fading supply? Did you get enough love, my little dove? Why do you cry? Sorry I left, but it was for the best, though it never felt right. My little Versailles. The hospital asked, should the body be gassed before I say goodbye, my star in the sky?
Yo,
Such a
oh.
funny thought to wrap you up in cloth. Do you find it alright, my dragonfly?
Yeah, we've got some stuff coming in.
My little loon, why do you cry? Make the most of your life while it is rife, while it is light. Will you do enough talk, my little hawk? Why do you cry? Tell me, what did you learn from the Tillamook burn or the 4th of July? We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die.
A little Fakeout. The song's been fairly quiet, and it felt like that was a build-up into a larger section, and we cut the cymbal shimmer just short to bring back this basic piano line we've had since the beginning. Interesting decision to overlay a triplet on this. Well, like I said, you never quite know what you're getting with Sufjan. Um, so this is it is one very simple idea repeated ad nauseum for a bombastic counter. That is technically also just a variation of the idea because that same piano progression, the quarter note hits, are continued on into the large final moment as well. So the thing is with Sufjan is that he's playful, right? I think we can agree on that. He's a very playful composer. And the playfulness comes out in different ways. And it makes it difficult for me to figure out how much of his work is tongue in cheek. How much of it is comedy, right? And how much of it is sincere, serious music. And I don't think that, at least in my limited exposure to him, that it's ever going to be on one end of the spectrum. It is somewhere in the middle of purely serious and purely comical or purely for fun. But it makes for an interesting listening experience where I don't know how I should be taking what I'm hearing. Because I definitely heard a big joke in here, right? Not only did the whole buildup of this very simple chord progression lead up to a repeating of the phrase, we're all gonna die, but I'm still alive. Which, I mean, we'll get into the majority of the lyrics later, and I'll see if that itself is a punchline to the verses that we had up until that point. But there's, at least to me, there's a micro joke in there of singing We're All Going to Die about 40 or 50 times and finishing the track. The very last statement is, yeah, but I'm still alive. Like, okay. There's also a juxtaposition between the lyrical themes of confronting our death and the emotional themes in the music, which are somber but not sad. They are downplayed but optimistic. That's what our piano chord progression tells us. But our lyrics seem to be very heavy. It's about confronting our inevitable end. But then in the middle, he got a very good chuckle out of me when he set me up for the big explosive moment and did not deliver. Only to actually deliver about 8 16 bars later, not that far away. It was a false start. And so my initial reaction to a lot of this is that it's fairly comical. This feels like a fun, funny song. But the first 4 minutes of it feel very serious. It feels like a singer-songwriter idea, right? About possibly confronting death. Like I said, I'm still not sure what the verses are about. I did pick up on one line where he called someone a butterfly and said that they weren't around anymore or something like that. I'm like, okay, this could be a heavy singer-songwriter style of track. Folk style. We have one basic idea that allows the vocalist to tell their story over it. I could imagine, it's a bit simplified, but I could imagine some other very prominent, heavy topic singer songwriters doing something like this. And then we get to the ending. I'm like, there's a lot of comedy in here. Maybe the entire beginning is parody. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's why the piano part is so simple, because he's entirely taking the piss out of these singer songwriters who do this very thing, who write these super serious songs about death and lost love, and it's just them and a piano singing very somberly, very quietly. It's a very intimate experience, and he is just completely parodizing that. It's complete satire. And so I don't know where to sit on this. It's like I said, it's an interesting experience to listen to satire done so well that at least on a first listen, I don't know if it is satire. Maybe this is supposed to be taken entirely serious. But this feels so jokey to me. It honestly feels like a stand-up comedian who is also a musician and understands musical tropes, and part of their set of doing stand-up is musical stand-up, right? Like this, almost like a who's the dude who sings Minchin? Tim Minchin? That who I'm thinking of? Yep, Tim Minchin. Wonderful, wonderful dude. Hilarious stand-up comedian. Does a lot of musical comedy. Um, and that's kind of what this feels like. Bo Burnham is another one. Uh, just really great at doing musical comedy. Um, and so, like, I have to ask myself, is that what this is? Is this a musical bit? And the fact that I'm asking that instead of definitively knowing is such a Sufjan thing. That's that's honestly often my experience with his work is, where on the spectrum of serious and comedy is this? Um, so those are my initial thoughts on this track. Musically, what's going on? I explained it at the beginning. We have this piano line, 4 bar phrase. We play a starting chord, a leading chord that tells us where we should go, and we do go exactly where it tells us into our resolution, and we stick in the resolution for 2 bars, where the other ones each get 1 bar. So 1 chord, 2 bar chord. It gives us our 4 bar phrase. All of it very rigidly on the downbeats. Now, interestingly, Sufjan decides to pair this with a vocal melody that's bouncy. Da 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 da. It's almost swung with how often he has an eighth or a 16th note pickup into the core beat. Bop 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 is the core heartbeat, the core phrasing of his song, but he has those little ba da ba da ba da ba da ba, and he has these little lead-ins, right? Little eighth and 16th notes, maybe even, nah. I was gonna say maybe they're grace notes, and I was like, no, this is a good opportunity to talk about grace notes, but I don't think they are. Grace notes are a bit shorter. But a grace note is, I'm just gonna take an opportunity to talk about it anyways, because I don't think I'll ever get another one. It's a little tiny note on the sheet music. It's a little tiny note that is placed above. Well, actually, I guess below. It's just a tiny note that comes before the other your big note that you're expecting to see on the beat or off the beat or wherever it is in the sheet music. And it implies you need to play the small note first, but quickly get to the second note. And it's sort of a drive-by note. It's not the core aspect, and usually you're going to want to play it a bit lighter and give more emphasis on the bigger note on your sheet music. But it's implied that it's there, and you need to play it quickly before you land on your core one. So da 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 da, you'd have a small one, and then the regular size one next to it. Maybe they're grace notes. Grace notes tend to have a little bit more speed to them, a little less space, but the difference between a 16th note hit before the downbeat and a grace note, it's so minuscule. Uh, it might as well. We can just say he's doing grace notes so that it solidifies and justifies my discussion of there. So there's your daily musical lesson on the video is grace notes. Um, but yeah, it's light, it's fun, it's bouncy, it contrasts heavily with that weighty piano line. And the piano line is played gently, but there's still weight to it. It's not like he's very gently pushing the keys. There's still a bit of movement to it. There's a percussive strike at the beginning. It is not a light playing. It's not as heavy as he could be performing, but it's certainly not a light attack. And to pair that da 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 da, all this levity and youthfulness and bounciness and brightness, it's like he's playing wintertime while singing springtime. And it's clashing heavy. Interesting decision. And then, like I said, I don't know if we're spoofing singer songwriter folk style of music or not, but we repeat this over and over and over. I think we get a full 3 verses out of this, of the isolated piano line and then the piano line plus the vocal, then the isolated piano line, then piano line and the vocal. We did, I think, on the third time we had the piano line and the fourth time we added extra stuff. I don't remember what the extra stuff was. I think there was a guitar solo or guitar melody. There was a violin melody that played on top of it one time, something like that. And we had a female vocalist that harmonized with him over the vocal parts. So there were mild variations to these moments to help push it along a little bit so that it didn't stagnate and feel like we were doing the exact same thing over and over, which even despite these small variations, I was still ready for the song to go somewhere. But there was still a little bit of, how can we spice this up? How can we make it different from last time? How can we help the song push forward rather than sitting in this repetition? But it really is just a repeated idea for 3-4 minutes. And that's the entire opening. We have I think the guitar one is our final additional element, because we take that idea and the drums come in, and we start to build up, and the volume gets higher, the things get wider, the instrumentation gets wider, the line that the guitar is playing gets more and more fervorous. There's more notes being played. Feverous, I think, is the word I want. Maybe fervor. There's more notes though being played. It starts out with like whole notes and then half notes and then quarter notes and then eighth notes, and it gets faster and faster. And then it just stops and we bring the piano back by itself. And I was just thinking, no. I was so ready to move on. And that's part of that, like I said, that is a punchline for me. That is one of the punchlines in this track for me. The fact that there are multiple, but yeah, pulls back and returns to that simple piano line. And then, of course, he starts repeating the final mantra that we'll hear, and we do the build up again. But we're all going to die, repeated over and over, bringing in more and more instruments, the violins, the guitars, the drums, the marimba or xylophone. I can't remember what it was. It was one of the pitched percussion instruments. Can't remember which one it was. Some sort of bell though. Um, yeah, and we just start building up. We get more and more people harmonizing with this, and then we get into the final section proper. And this was neat because it's very contained. That is to say that it lends itself to chaos in that there's so many layers doing their own things, but it's done in such a way that it's hyper clear, not just in the production, which this is phenomenally produced. If this is the live one, hats off to the sound engineer for this performance, but also compositionally, everything has a place in the song. There aren't any moments when things start to overlap and muddy, each other's lines up, despite so many moving parts. And I think what was most impressive about this is the live reverb that is just so perfectly utilized. It makes it sound like our three or four vocalists never have to breathe. In fact, if this was anybody else, I probably would have assumed that there was a backing track going on, but given that it's Sufjan, I have to imagine that it is just a perfectly timed reverb with a ton of practice and experience with this specific performance, so that them lining back up with the reverb to give it more input so that it can continue to cycle the sound over and over. um, it's done masterfully. And like I said, I'm gonna wager a lot of practice went into it. There's absolutely no way this was just pulled off like the first or second take. um, and it's so, because it's not just him either, it's every vocalist almost feeling like there's no breaths at all. It becomes very overwhelming. But here's the thing: we're all gonna die, and yeah, we're all gonna die. You can't sing that without putting a smile on your face. And it's not the words, of course. There's the juxtaposition, there's the contrast, there's the absurdity of it. Is that it's such a bright, cheery, catchy line that everybody wants to join in. There's four vocalists here who want to sing. And it is obviously a very dark line. Now, of course, we can make art that utilizes contrasting elements to amplify an idea. We can use contrasting elements to explore an idea in a safer realm. This does not feel like that though. This feels like intentionally digging into the absurdity of it for comedic purposes. The more I think about this, the more I explore the track, I'm certain this is a parody song. I don't necessarily know if it is a parody of singer-songwriter tropes, but it is definitely a song with multiple punchlines in it. It is a song designed to set the listener up for one idea and deliver on something else. It is a song designed to explore multiple times on undercutting listeners' expectations while digging into the absurdity that the opposing ideas of the expectations represent. Yeah, this is a but it's a really well done comedy song too. A lot of effort, energy, intelligence went into this, and the execution is flawless. Which I think it just makes it better for me. It's it's just, it's just good on every level. And it's not often that you can sing the words, "We're all gonna die," and you get a real hearty guffaw out of me. A real good chuckle. And he nails it. Absolutely. Let's check out some lyrics. I think this is going to provide a bit of insight, or it's just going to confirm what I was already thinking about this. And we'll see how much of my thoughts are present in this track. So we have a verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, outro. And the outro is, of course, We're All Gonna Die. Verse 1. The evil, it spread like a fever ahead. It was night when you died, my firefly. What could I have said to raise you from the dead? Oh, could I be the sky on the 4th of July? Yeah, see, I told you right from the start, I picked up some really somber ideas, and this lines up with that, right? Aside from, I mean, even that line about wanting to be the sky on the 4th of July could be about emotional outbursts, about allowing yourself to explode, or being bright, even. Like, there's a lot of ways to take that in a very serious metaphorical way. You know, I'm devastated, and I would have done anything to have brought you back. So, I would have given anything for you to still be alive right now. I'd even be, I wish I could be the sky on the 4th of July. The chorus, well, chorus one, every chorus is a little different, but they have similar patterns to them. Well, you do enough talk, my little hawk, why do you cry? Tell me, what did you learn from the Tillamook burn or the 4th of July? We're all gonna die. I wonder what the Tillamook burn is. You do enough talk, why do you cry? What did you learn from the Tillamook burn or the 4th of July? Hmm. Sitting at the bed with a halo at your head, was it all a disguise like junior high, where everything was fiction, future, and prediction? Now where am I, my fading supply? Hmm. Metaphorical halo? Or are we still talking about, you said the fever it spread, or the evil spread like a fever on the night that you died. Is it possible that he was sitting at her? Has not stated yet. So sitting at the bedside of this person on their deathbed, and that's why the halo's there. Or is it to imply an innocence prior to, the week or month leading up to their death? Did you get enough love, my little dove? And why do you cry? And I'm sorry I left, but it was for the best, though I never felt right, my little Versailles, sorry. Gotta rhyme with cry. Huh. Verse 3, the hospital asked, should the body be cast? Before I say goodbye, my star in the sky, such a funny thought to wrap you up in cloth. Did you find it all right, my dragonfly? Shall we look at the moon, my little loon? Why do you cry? Make the most of your life while it is rife, while it is light. Well, you do enough talk, my little hawk. Why do you cry? Tell me, what did you learn from the Tillamook burn or the 4th of July? We're all gonna die. Hmm. I don't know. Because here's the thing, right? I was expecting more jokes in here, or maybe just a more jokier mood. And I kind of get it. The overuse of almost feels like forced rhymes. with really weird words. Kind of leans into that, but there's also a sincerity here that I was not expecting at all. See, I figured the sincerity in our first verse was going to be the setup for the turnaround, so that we could have something a bit jokier in maybe the chorus or the latter half of uh, these verses, but we didn't get it. He seems to be taking this very seriously, which makes me think I read the song wrong. But by the end of it, I can't help but have laughed multiple times, and I don't know. Maybe this song is about losing someone, and lyrically, but musically, it's about trying to move on with life and realizing that death is inevitable for all of us. So it's not like this person is going to be around forever, and trying to come to terms with that. Those are my thoughts on 4th of July by Sufjan Stevens. Let me know in the comments if you have a different take on this. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm still like trying to parse these lyrics, and yeah, as comical as the music was, and as much as it felt like a parody to me, lyrically it seems quite sincere. And again, a lot of the music was based on absurdity of contrasting elements, and maybe that's what this is as well. We have the music which feels comical and the lyrics which are serious, which just lines up with the duality we heard throughout the track as well. But maybe I'll also just have a very wrong reading of the music, and the lyrics I could have a wrong reading of as well. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions. If you agree with me, disagree with me, let me know in the comments. Above that is a description box, and there's a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. Links for everything related to the channel. You can find ways to support the channel, find ways to join the communities around the channel, and a ton more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell, I greatly appreciate all three. That wraps it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. We'll be checking out another indie rock track and a special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.